Hello, music fans. I'm here to talk to you about my favorite bands that start with the letter Q today. And it was a tough one for Q. There's not that many bands that I know and like that start with Q. So the video today will be a bit shorter. I've just got three bands to mention. And picking the number one was kind of tough. It's almost a toss up. But I'm gonna pick the unpopular choice of the two. This might be blasphemy, but my number one I'm going to go with is Queens of the Stone Age. They're an alternative rock, kind of stoner rock, hard rock band. And my favorite album of theirs is Songs for the Deaf. And yeah, I like a bunch of their other albums too. I like the album called Like Clockwork from 2013. I think I picked them as my number one over this band that I'm going to say is number two, which is the legendary Queen. And even though I think Queen's best material is a lot better than Queens of the Stone Age, like Queen's best four albums are better than like anything that Queens of the Stone Age has ever done. Queens of the Stone Age is a bit more consistent, whereas Queen has some albums that are kind of duds. Like they have at least six or so albums in their career that I don't really want to listen to pretty much ever again unless you're a completionist and you want to listen to Queen's discography. So my Queen is obviously the legendary rock band fronted by Freddie Mercury, who has since passed away. He passed away in the 90s, I think, early 90s. But they now tour with Adam Lambert. But their stuff, some of their albums are just amazing. Queen, like my favorite albums from them are albums like Jazz, A Night at the Opera, Sheer Heart Attack, A Day at the Races. Those are probably my top four, but maybe it can change based on the day. The Game is also a really great album. So I really like all those albums, and if you just look at that, their stuff is a lot better than Queens of the Stone Age. But if you look at some of their other albums that aren't so great, like the Flash Gordon soundtrack, which is just a soundtrack, it's not really great for a listening experience. Hot Space, A Kind of Magic, a lot of their stuff from the 80s, The Miracle, Made in Heaven, The Works, I didn't like as much. None of them are terrible, but they're just not quite as good as the consistent output from Queens of the Stone Age or the peak of Queen's career. And then my honorable mention band here, another band that starts with Queen, is Queen's Reich, the one of the founding bands of progressive metal. They're kind of like, they started out more on the heavy metal side, sounding a bit like Iron Maiden with their first couple albums, The Warning, Rage for Order. And then for me, it's really 1988's Operation Mindcrime that's my favorite album by Queensryche. And that's where I feel like they became prog metal. 1988 could be kind of the year. I mean, I know there was a little bit of prog metal before that, but that's kind of where it got really well defined by Queensryche and Fate's Warning, because they both started out like heavy metal bands, kind of sounding like Maiden, and then they just got proggier and proggier. And I think 1988 is the year where, in my mind, Queensryche and Fate's Warning kind of became full-on prog metal bands. So gotta respect the pioneers. Queensryche also is very hit or miss, like Queen, with their albums. Some of them are great and some of them are not so great. But I really like Operation Mindcrime. So I recommend that to anybody who's a fan of progressive metal, especially heavy metal inspired. If you like prog metal and you like Maiden, it's a little bit glammy. So those vocals I know are not for everybody, but you can't deny the vocal talent. And that's it for me for bands that start with the letter Q that I am recommending today. Till next time, we'll talk about the letter R in the next video. Peace out.